Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds, and in today's video topic, we're going to be going over Mcmagic's Hybrid Squirrel Beastmaster. Before we get into the video, if you've been enjoying the steady flow of last Epoch content lately, I'd suggest leaving a like on the video, as that's the best way to support the channel. But this is going to be a different episode this time, because we actually have Mcmagic on. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mcmagic.
Hey, I'm Mcmagic. Play pretty much exclusively Beastmaster these days.
Yeah, Mcmagic is definitely the guy I go to or Tunk whenever I have Beastmaster questions. So, Mcmagic, why'd you play this build? What do you think is better about it versus like Wolves?
It's basically just like the best, I think, Beastmaster build in every way in terms of single target, clear, uh, all this stuff. It's basically, in terms of Beastmaster, has none of the drawbacks that some of the other builds have.
What are the reasons for that?
So Squirrels themselves just do like, they have so much armor and physical resistance shred that even with their 45% or 55% less damage, they still like end up doing more damage than wolves do each, even if you get twice as many.
Yeah, that's pretty surprising.
Yeah, so that alone basically just makes them better than wolves, that they do just as much damage. Plus, you still get the 30% health on the helm, so it's still a really good helm even without that.
Yeah, about the helm, how rare is it?
Um, I don't think it's that rare. I've gotten 2 from target farming and 1 from non-target farming. One of them had, the non-target farm one had LP on it, but the rolls were pretty bad, so I still use a no LP helm.
Okay, and what kind of content is this build good for?
I think for Beastmaster, it's really good on T4 Julra, just because the single target is pretty insane, and they're actually able to survive pretty well in that fight. And then even with Monolith, if you take the leap where they jump with you, they actually clear pretty well, especially since with this build you're using Upheaval, which has a lot of AoE.
Yeah, because you're actually doing damage with the scrolls as well because of the way the aspects work, right?
Yeah, I don't really don't like beast like well builds in general where I don't do anything, but especially Beastmaster like companion or pet builds, because I just feel like they take slightly too long for like their aggro to kick in. So it's just like you clear a lot faster by helping your squirrels out.
Yeah, so we actually had your build on before where it was the hybrid wolf beastmaster. Is there any reason why you upgraded to a beevil?
Uh, so they kind of gutted Swipe's AoE by removing this. Well, they didn't remove Spirit Wolves, but they made its scale completely different. And it's just awful now. So Upheaval's just, I think, basically far superior in almost every way, unless you're just going like full attack speed, just because you can't really sustain mana that well.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. So for general so normally I would do like a skill rotation part in the video, but since obviously it's not my build, I'm gonna ask you like, what's your general skill rotation? Like, what do you have to do normally to do monoliths versus like bosses and stuff?
So I keep the Wolf Howl, or what it's like, Screen, Rage, whatever the squirrel one is,
Squirrel and
on
rage, okay.
autocast.
Yeah.
So I have the passive tree set up so it has 100% uptime on autocast. And then I basically just jump in and drop a frenzy totem and then go ham.
Yeah, and then for bossing specifically Julra in this case, what's your strategy for her specifically?
I'll usually like kill those totem things that she spawns myself. I just have my wolves or squirrels stay on her the whole time. As long as they're attacking, they're able to stay alive pretty well because of their insane leech from their damage. But if they ever try to like run to go fight something else when they're not attacking, that's like when they'll die the most. So you just want to make sure they're always on
Yeah,
her.
and I noticed in the gameplay that like when your squirrels actually died in that phase, you were able to just simply wait and do the time travel and phase over. I've
Yeah,
noticed that's pretty strong.
a little bit of patience in T4 Julra goes a long way. The first few times I was doing it before I really learned the fight that well, I tried a few things, like one trying to res wolves or squirrels while she was doing all of her mechanics, and that pretty much didn't work. And then I tried also, like, if my squirrels died, I would remove the squirrel from the hot bar so that their death circles disappeared and I could just resummon them back. But that was a huge pain too. And then I realized, oh, if I just like let them sit on the ground dead for a few seconds when she goes to a different time era, and you jump, like you have enough time to res them as long as they're in one place, which is another reason why I just have them target Joras, just so they stay as a pack. So if they all die, I can revive them all at one time.
Yeah, and making sure you have big enough companion or a revive AoE as well. That'll help a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, any other differences versus like the old wolf build, like the old hybrid wolf build, like anything else like you'd like to add that you've upgraded since then?
Yeah, I don't use the ice bite anymore just because they have so much physical penetration because of the helmet that and I don't know exact. I know EHG reworked like the visual. Um,
Of ice
I
bite?
feel like it's just not really worth it. The amount of area you're getting is so minimal now
Yeah,
off of ice bite that, and since all those attacks are converted like completely to cold, you're not taking advantage of that physical pen, which actually lets you put a lot more points into like the tanky nodes for wolves, so they just survive a lot better.
yeah, and they just simply clear anyways because there's just so many of them, right? Like it's
Yeah, you don't like. I'm already basically probably overkill on the amount of damage they need.
I
So
mean, come
a lot
on,
of the
everyone
gear, like I'm
loves
not even
damage.
getting minion damage anymore.
But yeah, that's gonna be it for the intro today. Thank you, Mcmagic, for coming on and showing us your squirrels. You must be like the crazy homeless man in New York showing off everyone his squirrels, his rabbit squirrels.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna leave Mcmagic's Twitch link in the description. He streams every so often. It really depends how busy he is, because he does work, unlike me, sadly. But yeah, with all that being said, let's get into the video, shall we? All right, here we are in planner with the build. This is the squirrel build. Normally, like I said, I'd be in game, but this isn't my build, so we have to go over the build planner instead. So the first thing we're going to go off is the skills. So we're going to press S here. And the first skill we're going to talk about is Summon Wolf. So these are turned into squirrels. So we generally just want to give them as much damage as humanly possible, which is evident here. So we take 5 points into On the Hunt for the attack and movement speed. Generally, the squirrels are very small, so you want to have as much movement speed on them as possible to make sure that they get to the target, because they are melee minions. Then 3 points into Howl of Might. You're always proccing the Wolf Howl, so this is pretty much always up, which is nice. 90% more damage right there. 2 points travel into Savage Hunters, 30% more damage, obviously, really strong. Then 5 points into Legendary Bite. A lot of builds don't grab this, and it's kind of confusing because that more melee crit chance is absolutely insane, as it makes it so if you're like at like I think 60% chance to crit, you're always at 100% chance to crit with the wolves, and it makes it so aspect of the links is the only thing you really need to cap your crit. And of course, the 75% more melee damage is nuts, literally. 2 points into Lupine Endurance. This is enough HP. Travel, of course. 2 points travel into Wolf and Recovery. They don't need the health regen really because they leech all their life back thanks to how much damage they deal. 1 point into Earthborn. Speaking of leech, this is part of their leech. Then 1 point into Pack Hunters for the extra companion. Now, if you did not have the Fang like Mcmagic does, then you will have to grab safety in numbers for now until you get the Fang. And pretty much the Fang is just a +1, right? Yeah. Now for upheaval, so this is more in line with a hybrid setup. Like he is able to use upheaval to clear trash, which is the most important thing. So in this patch, minions are really good, but the problem is their clear is a little slow. So anything to give them a little bit more of a boost is nice. And most trash, like spiders, shit like that, right? Things that will take your squirrels a few more seconds to kill, not because they're tankier, but because there's just so many of them, right? And you have to deal with animations and stuff like that with your squirrels. It means it's really easy just to use a upheaval with shockwave and just simply kill them all, right? So that's what he's doing here. This is like your this is like just a stereotypical like upheaval setup. He's mainly going for the fizz pen here, and it's double since he has two-hander, because he's running a two-hander for the minion melee damage percentage. Then the shockwaves, of course, that makes it so his clear is really nice. And of course the mana reduction, right? Then 4 points in the crust rupture for the crit multi as well. That's like pretty much it. There's not really much else different than other upheaval setups. Then for his leap, fear leap, mainly he's going for pack leader, because you want this to make it so your squirrels come with you. This is our version of convocation. This is as close to convocation as you're getting, so that it helps a lot. Then, of course, 3 points in rage. This also gives your squirrels attack speed, which is nice. Wait, no, never mind. It's just yourself. Never mind. It's just yourself. I forgot. Of course, going for the cooldown reset so he can keep leaping. But yeah, then for Frenzy Totem, this is mainly focused on your squirrels doing the most damage. So he takes 5 points to ground you to give your squirrels 25 flat damage, which is really good. Of course, the negative 50 mana cost is nice too. Then, of course, he comes down here, 3 points travel to Symbol of Selfishness. This gives your 30% more Frenzy Totem effect for your actual minions, which is really good because it's your minions that do damage. Then 3 points into Warding Totem for the physical and elemental resistance. This is one of the only ways of capping your companion's elemental resistances in the game. So it's definitely very strong, especially since it does it in an AoE, which all your squirrels benefit from. Then 1 point travel into Venomous Intent, then 5 points into Bestial Frenzy. This on top of the 25 here, this is just an insane amount of flat damage for your squirrels. 45 flat physical already. And since the squirrels, they shred physical resistance, this is compounded, and it just gets to ridiculous amounts of flat physical for your minions. And of course for Warcry, so mainly for Warcry, he's going for the crit setup with the crit chance here and here, just as much crit chance as humanly possible to add on top of your squirrels to make sure they're always critting. And then of course he goes down here for Shallow Breath for reduced cooldown, because he wants the half cooldown for like 5-second cooldown. Then of course Frenzy and Haste for himself, because Frenzy is turned off for him, so he's gaining Frenzy through Warcry Totem. Warcry, I mean. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the skills, I think, today. Now for the passives here. So he takes 8 points into the Primal Strength. So your minions gain base HP per strength, and that's what he's going for here. 1 point travel into Primal Medicine, 5 points into Hunter's Restoration for the increased health, obviously, 6 points in Survival of the Pack. This makes it so he leeches on top of his squirrels, even leeching more. This is why squirrels are able to like tank Julra, is because they have so much leech available to them. 5 points into Berserker, of course, for more EHP while at low health. 8 points into Shamanic Infusion. This is applied to your minions as well and your companions. So they're since you're mostly doing physical, you're of course penetrating physical damage. Then no points in Druid, and then 80 points to Beastmaster, 8 points into Ursine Strength. This DR is strong. And of course, the minions gain HP based on your strength. 1 point travel into Savagery, 1 point travel into Ambush, 2 points into Lamprey Teeth for more leech. Of course, increased minion health leech is really strong when all of your minions are leeching an insane amount. Then 5 points into Rending Maw for the shred chance, then 1 point into Hundreds of the Deep. This makes it so when your minions have aspect of the shark, they get a 100% increased chance to shred armor, so that's on top of the helmet, which means you'll pretty much get to armor shred cap very easily with squirrels. Then 4 out of 5 points for Boarheart for the aspect of the boar, 5 points in Porcine Constitution for the extra resistances, 8 points into the chase. This is minion attack speed. You want as much minion attack speed as humanly possible. 5 points into primal strength, as that flat strength of course applies to your minions, and of course the aspect of the board chance on melee hit, that's why he's using upheaval. 5 points into axe and claw for the melee physical, flat, which like I showed you before is very strong. 1 point into life in the wilderness, this makes it so that your minions get your endurance threshold, which is really nice. 10 points into Viper's Fangs for the increased companion attack speed, as that applies to your companions, and since your squirrels are melee minions, this is really good for them. 7 out of 8 points for Cry of the Lynx. This makes it so that whenever you cast your companion ability, i.e. Squirrel Rage, it'll give your squirrels a bunch of crit chance, which of course he is going for a little bit of aspect of the Lynx crit, and that on top of the crit inside Warcry is enough to cap out your squirrel's crit because of the 75% more crit chance. Then 1 point into Force of Nature for the extra companion, which is 2 squirrels instead of just 1. So every extra companion is an extra squirrel, which is nice. 6 points into Serrated Claws for the companion crit multi, and for the crit, so aspect of the Lynx is really strong here. So if you have like 40% aspect of the Lynx effect, you get like 24% increased crit multi, which is nice. Of course, like as much crit multi as possible since you're always critting. Then on top of that, we also have the 15% leech damage health on crit, which is obviously ridiculous because it allows you to allows your squirrels to tank everything in the game pretty much as long as they're leeching. Then 5 points into primal aspects. He's doing this so that his aspect of the shark lasts long enough so that it's always up. It also makes it so his aspect of the lynx is stays up long enough, and also makes it so that his boar heart stays up long enough as well. So like all in all, this is pretty good strong setup for minions. Yeah. Let's talk about gearing. Obviously, if you don't have Herald of the Scary, you can't play this build. There are other wolf builds in the description, which I'll be posting, but until you have Herald of the Scary. But yeah, Herald of the Scary is ridiculous, as you can tell, because it just gives your minions a bunch of physical shred resistance, which is like nuts, obviously. Pun not intended. Fang, this is really strong because it's 16 melee physical flat. Since you're, like I said, you're focused so much on physical, this helps a lot. And of course, all the other stats are nice, and it saves you a point inside Summon Wolf. The weapon. So normally in most summon builds, your weapon is kind of useless because your weapon's normally useless because your prefixes don't really matter. But since he's a hybrid build and he's actually doing somewhat a decent damage with upheaval to clear trash, he actually builds into damage on his staff. On his weapon, which he went for a Lucerne base, of course, for the base crit, and that on top of the 9% base crit means he's always critting with his upheaval when he has aspect of the lynx. Remember, aspect of the lynx applies to you and your minions at the same time. Now, one thing I would go for instead, in my opinion, I would go for the minion melee damage. Obviously, it's one of the. Oh, I guess you can't do that. Oh, never mind. Really? You can't? Oh, I'm stupid. Okay, I'm just being stupid. Just ignore that. For the chest, added melee minion critical strike chance. This on top of the 5% they get a base, plus all the crit chance from everything, plus the 75% more crit chance is enough to cap your squirrel's crit. That's very important. And of course, aspect of the lynx effect is very nice as well, because this applies to the crit chance and the crit multi. Then of course HP, of course. Ribbons of Blood is really strong as it makes it so your squirrels can't be crit, which means you can run crit monos easily and not have to worry about anything. And of course, the leech is always strong, and the increased leech rate is always strong too, which means your squirrels pretty much never die, which obviously you saw earlier. Other than like when they're not leeching, like you saw earlier, or when they're like standing in the middle of everything. And of course, minion health regen. You do get a little bit of increased minion health regen, so this helps their tankiness as well when they're not leeching. Minion health, of course, you have plenty of damage with this build, so you want as much minion health as possible. And HP. Same thing with the other ring. He is running a little bit of extra mana regen just so that he doesn't run out of mana, of course, because all of his stuff costs mana. But this seems to be plenty enough. Then resistance, crit avoidance, of course. Minion health and strength. since he's stacking attributes like he is here, he doesn't need that much increased minion health to make it so your squirrels don't get one shot, which is nice. Of course, a bunch of resistances and HP. Same thing with the boots, HP and resistances. Then the relic here. So he's running the woad antler. Sure, it's not being scaled like the physical is, but he has a bunch of increased minion damage and all that. So any amount of flat is better. And of course, crit multi, minion health regen, so that they survive long enough, and of course, resistances. And like for his blessings, of course, endurance. Right, you can get minion damage here if you have better endurance in your gear, like with some like better gear choices, like. Obviously, Crit Avoid is like one of the best blessings for this, although you could go for a minion all res if you manage to get better gear, of course. And the resistances. For idols, he's just running increased aspect, the link effect, and then increase minion melee damage. This is your best in slot idol because not only does it give you more crit multi crit chance, it also gives you increased damage as well. And all of this just means like he's capped on crit. Then of course as much HP as humanly possible here. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. With all that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye.